Welcome to USA Football Explained, and subscribe to our channel.
Every iconic NFL celebration explained. The first spike. The year is 1965, and the National Football League exists in a state of stoic professionalism. In this era, a touchdown is followed by a simple ball handoff to the referee, a quiet jog to the sideline, and perhaps a congratulatory pat on the helmet. The league actively discourages excessive displays, enforcing fines against any player who throws the football into the stands, viewing the act as unprofessional and a delay of game. It is within this conservative landscape that New York Giants wide receiver Homer Jones, one of the league's premier deep threats, faces a practical dilemma. Filled with the overwhelming adrenaline that comes from scoring a touchdown, yet constrained by the league's punitive rules, he invents a solution born not of vanity, but of necessity. Instead of tossing the ball away and incurring a fine, he decides to channel his emotion downward. In a singular, violent motion, Jones slams the football into the end zone turf with all his might. The act is shocking in its simplicity and its raw power. It is not a dance or a performance. It is a physical exclamation point, a geyser of turf and emotion that punctuates the score. This gesture, which becomes known as the spike, is instantly understood by everyone watching. It is a declaration of dominance, a cathartic release of the tension and struggle required to reach the end zone. Because the act does not involve the crowd and is over in an instant, it cleverly circumvents the league's rules against prolonged demonstrations. The spike is a loophole, an act of contained violence that the league tacitly accepts. For nearly a decade, the spike becomes the default celebration for the league's toughest players. It is the signature move of the grim-faced running back, the stoic tight end, and the hard-nosed linebacker who scores on a defensive return. It becomes the foundational act of touchdown punctuation, the direct ancestor of every end zone celebration to follow. Its legacy is one of power and raw emotion, a masculine and aggressive statement of achievement. However, the very nature of the spike, as a solitary, almost angry gesture, would soon give way to a new philosophy in the next decade, one that viewed the end zone not as a place for punctuation, but as a stage for joyful performance. The gravedigger. As the NFL moved into the 1970s, the culture of the league began to change. The merger with the more flamboyant American Football League, AFL, and the societal shift of the me decade brought a new emphasis on individual personality and flair. Into this new world stepped Billy White Shoes Johnson, a dazzling kick returner and wide receiver for the Houston Oilers. Johnson did not see the end zone as a place for aggression, but as a platform for entertainment. He pioneered one of the first truly elaborate, pre-planned touchdown dances, a spectacle that would earn him his famous nickname and change the nature of celebrations forever. His signature routine was the gravedigger, a dance so unique it became his personal trademark. The dance itself was a masterpiece of joyful absurdity. Characterized by his high-knee, wobbly-legged strut, Johnson would bend his knees inward and outward in a rhythmic, almost hypnotic fashion. It was unlike anything the league had seen before. It was pure performance. It wasn't born from anger or adrenaline, but from a premeditated desire to entertain the fans at the Houston Astrodome. The crowd would roar in delight as White Shoes began his routine, a celebration that was as electrifying as the long touchdown returns that preceded it. The league, still operating under a more conservative mindset, was unsure how to react. The dance wasn't overtly taunting, nor did it use props, so it existed in a gray area of the rulebook. Billy Johnson's gravedigger dance paved the way for the future of celebrations. He was the first player to truly build a national brand around his post-touchdown antics. He proved that a player's personality could be as big of a draw as their on-field talent, and that the 6 points were just the prelude to the real show. He was the spiritual father of every great performer to follow, from Ickey Woods to Terrell Owens. His legacy was in transforming the end zone into a dance floor. While Johnson was a beloved one-man show, the next evolution of celebration would see an entire team get in on the act. The Fun Bunch. In the early 1980s, under legendary head coach Joe Gibbs, the Washington franchise built a powerhouse team centered on a physical offensive line and a dynamic, close-knit group of wide receivers. This group, featuring stars like Art Monk, Charlie Brown, and Alvin Garrett, became affectionately known as the Fun Bunch. They took the concept of celebration and turned it into a symbol of their team's unique chemistry and camaraderie. Instead of an individual display, they created a team ritual. After a touchdown, the entire group of receivers would congregate in the end zone to perform their famous choreographed group high five. It was a pre-planned, joyful explosion of team unity. The routine itself was simple but iconic. The players would huddle up, and then on a count, they would all leap into the air simultaneously, meeting in the middle for a massive, collective high five. For fans in Washington, it was the ultimate symbol of their team's success and togetherness. For the rest of the league, and especially for the NFL front office led by Commissioner Pete Rozelle, it was a step too far. Opponents and conservative media figures decried it as showboating and taunting. The league viewed these prolonged, choreographed demonstrations as a threat to the game's integrity and sportsmanship. The Fun Bunch's routine became the primary catalyst for the NFL's infamous 1984 rule change that explicitly banned prolonged, excessive, or choreographed demonstrations. This ban was a landmark moment, cementing the league's reputation as the no-fun league for decades to come. By specifically targeting a celebration rooted in team joy, the NFL drew a line in the sand against player expression. The Fun Bunch became the first and most famous martyrs in the war on celebration, their legacy forever tied to the league's attempt to legislate fun out of the game. The ban on group celebrations, however, only forced the creativity of players to turn inward, leading to the rise of the elaborate solo dance, a craze that would soon be epitomized by a shuffling Cincinnati Bengal. The Ickey Shuffle. With group celebrations officially outlawed, the late 1980s saw the rise of the individual performer, and in 1988, no performer was bigger than Cincinnati Bengals rookie fullback Ickey Woods. During a sensational season that saw his team make a run to the Super Bowl, Woods unveiled a touchdown dance that became a full-blown national phenomenon, the Ickey Shuffle. The dance was relatively simple: a few steps to the right, a pivot, a few steps to the left, a hop back, and a finger twirl. But performed with Woods' infectious charisma, it became an instant sensation, a perfect encapsulation of late 80s pop culture. The shuffle's popularity exploded beyond the confines of the NFL. It appeared in television commercials, it was performed by fans at weddings, and it became a staple of end-zone dances at every level of football. Ickey Woods wasn't just a football player anymore. He was a pop culture icon. The NFL, however, still operating under its no-fun league mentality, was not entirely pleased. While the dance itself wasn't banned, the league often fined Woods for performing the celebration anywhere in the end zone. They tried to enforce a rule that celebrations must be directed towards the sideline, a clear attempt to curb the on-field spectacle. The fines did little to dampen the enthusiasm for the shuffle. It proved that a single player's signature move could have a massive cultural and commercial impact, a lesson in swagger and marketability that would be taken to its absolute zenith by the most confident athlete of the next decade. Prime time. The 1990s ushered in an era of unprecedented athlete branding and bravado, and no single player embodied the spirit more than the electrifying Hall of Fame cornerback Deion "Primetime" Sanders. For Deion, a celebration wasn't something you did after the play was over. It was an integral part of the play itself. His signature move wasn't a dance, but a declaration of dominance during his long interception and punt returns. Starting from as far out as the 20 or 30-yard line, Sanders would begin his iconic high-step trot, lifting his knees with exaggerated flair and holding the football out in one hand as he cruised towards the end zone. This was more than a celebration. It was the ultimate act of athletic taunting and supreme confidence. It was a message to every opponent on the field. You can't catch me, and I know it. The high step was the defining celebratory gesture of the flashy, swagger-filled 1990s. In an era of hip-hop culture and athlete as entertainer, Primetime understood that performance was paramount. He wasn't just a defensive back. He was a must-see television event, and his high step became his registered trademark. He proved that a celebration could be a powerful tool for building a personal brand, a display of individual charisma that overshadowed the game itself. But while Deion's celebration was an act of personal flair that could happen in any stadium, a new tradition was brewing in Green Bay that was inextricably linked to one specific place and its people. The Lambeau Leap. On a frigid Green Bay afternoon, December 26, 1993, a moment of pure, unscripted joy gave birth to one of the most cherished traditions in all of American sports. The Green Bay Packers were playing the Los Angeles Raiders when safety Leroy Butler recovered a fumble and took it to the end zone for a touchdown. Fueled by an overwhelming rush of adrenaline and the roar of the home crowd, Butler didn't stop when he crossed the goal line. He kept running towards the south end zone wall, and in a spontaneous decision, he leaped into the stands, disappearing into the arms of a sea of overjoyed Packers fans. In that moment, the Lambeau Leap was born. The act was an instant sensation, a beautiful and powerful symbol of the unique, almost familial bond between the Green Bay Packers and their devoted fan base. It was a celebration that broke the barrier between player and spectator, a shared moment of communal triumph against the harsh Wisconsin cold. The leap quickly became an iconic tradition, a rite of passage for every Packer who scored a touchdown at Lambeau Field. Players like Robert Brooks and Antonio Freeman popularized it further, making it a staple of the team's dominant run in the mid-90s. Recognizing the overwhelmingly positive and community-building nature of the celebration, the NFL made a rare exception. While other celebrations were being scrutinized and banned, the league allowed the Lambeau Leap to continue, acknowledging it as a special tradition that captured the very best spirit of the game. The Dirty Bird. The 1998 Atlanta Falcons were a team of destiny, known affectionately as the Dirty Birds. This underdog squad, led by coach Dan Reeves and star running back Jamal Anderson, embarked on an improbable and thrilling run to Super Bowl 33. Every great team has an anthem, and the 98 Falcons had their own official dance, a celebration that perfectly captured their energetic and confident identity. The dance was created and popularized by Anderson himself. After scoring, he would perform a unique wing-flapping routine that came to be known as the Dirty Bird. The dance was simple, yet incredibly charismatic. It involved a few steps back, a bob of the head, and then a repeated rhythmic flapping of the arms, mimicking a bird taking flight. The move would electrify the Georgia Dome, and soon the entire city of Atlanta. The Dirty Bird became much more than just a touchdown celebration. It became a cultural phenomenon and the unifying symbol of the team's magical season. Teammates, fans, and even local news personalities would perform the dance. It represented the swagger and underdog spirit of a team that no one saw coming. The dance is forever linked with that 1998 season, a time capsule of the moment the Atlanta Falcons captured the heart of their city and shocked the football world. While the Dirty Bird was about expressing a team's identity, the next great innovation in celebrations would be about making a very personal and very infamous statement with a prop. The SHARPIE. By the early 2000s, star wide receiver Terrell Owens had already established himself as one of the most talented and polarizing players in the league. He was known for his incredible skill and his equally incredible, often controversial celebrations. On a high-profile Monday Night Football game on October 20th, 2002, Owens engineered a stunt that would forever change the game and give birth to the infamous prop celebration era. Playing for the San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks, Owens caught a touchdown pass and immediately jogged towards a specific spot in the end zone, his plan already in motion. In a move that left the announcers and audience stunned, Owens reached into his sock and pulled out a black SHARPIE permanent marker that he had hidden there before the play. With the cameras rolling, he proceeded to autograph the football he had just caught, then found his financial advisor in the front row of the stands and personally handed him the signed ball. The act was a brilliant piece of performance art, a calculated move that blurred the lines between on-field action, self-promotion, and off-field business. The league responded immediately, flagging him for unsportsmanlike conduct for using a prop. This single act opened a Pandora's box of possibilities, sparking a fierce debate about sportsmanship and showboating. Owens had once again proven that the only limit to celebration was a player's own imagination and his willingness to absorb the inevitable fine. Thus, CELLY. Terrell Owens had opened a door for using props in celebrations, and just over a year later, another charismatic wide receiver would walk right through it with a technological twist. On a nationally televised Sunday night football game in December 2003, New Orleans Saints star Joe Horn executed one of the most meticulously planned and memorable celebrations of all time. Before the game, Horn had managed to have a Confederate hide a black flip phone deep inside the protective padding at the base of the goalpost, a secret waiting to be revealed. After scoring a crucial touchdown, Horn ran directly to the goalpost, reached into the padding, and pulled out the hidden cell phone. In front of a national audience, he held the flip phone to his ear, pretending to make a call from the end zone. The stunt, which came to be known as the CELLY, was instantly iconic. It was audacious, clever, and perfectly designed for a primetime television moment. The NFL, continuing its crackdown on prop-based antics, was not amused. Horn was hit with an immediate 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. The following week, the league office handed him a hefty $30,000 fine for the stunt. Joe Horn's phone call became a legendary moment in the ongoing cat-and-mouse game between creative players and the No Fun League, proving that some players were willing to pay any price to create an unforgettable celebration. Chad OCHOCINCO. While Terrell Owens and Joe Horn were innovators, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Chad OCHOCINCO, formerly known as Chad Johnson, was the master. Throughout the 2000s, he elevated the art of celebration to a new level of theatricality and comedic genius. For OCHOCINCO, the end zone was not just a stage, it was a laboratory for performance art. He became a master of props, choreography, and pure, unadulterated entertainment, constantly pushing the boundaries of what the league would tolerate and racking up historic fines in the process. His list of celebrations is legendary in its creativity and diversity. He famously performed a flawless Irish river dance after a score. He used a pylon as a golf putter, lining up a shot in the end zone. He once got down on one knee and proposed to a cheerleader with the football. Perhaps his most audacious stunt came in 2007, when after a touchdown, he had a teammate bring him a custom-made prop gold jacket with Future HOF emblazoned on the back, which he proudly wore on the sideline. Each performance was more elaborate than the last, and the league fined him for nearly all of them. Throughout his career, Chad OCHOCINCO amassed a staggering total of over $150,000 in fines for his on-field antics. He was a relentless entertainer, a comedic force who viewed the fines as simply the cost of doing business. The calf rope. Celebrations were not just the domain of offensive players. For a dominant pass rusher, the sack is their ultimate achievement, their version of a touchdown. And for much of the 2000s, few were better at it than Minnesota Vikings defensive end Jared Allen. A relentless and charismatic force, Allen perfected a sack celebration that was as unique and memorable as his playing style. After taking down the opposing quarterback, Allen would often perform his signature calf rope dance. The routine was a clear and clever nod to his love of the outdoors and rodeo culture. The dance was a multi-step pantomime. Allen would mimic throwing a lasso, expertly roping an imaginary runaway calf, and then pulling the rope tight and hog-tying it on the ground. It was a creative, non-taunting, and personal celebration that became a signature move for one of the best pass rushers of his generation. Despite this, the NFL office repeatedly took issue with the celebration, citing it as a violent gesture that mimicked the subjugation of an animal. The league fined Allen on multiple occasions for the dance. The fines highlighted the often confusing and inconsistent logic of the league's disciplinary arm, sparking debate about what truly constituted an inappropriate celebration. It became another symbol of the ongoing tension between a player's right to express his individuality and the league's rigid code of on-field conduct. The Gronk spike, invented by Homer Jones in 1965, was an act of pure, raw emotion. For decades, it remained the standard for a powerful, no-nonsense celebration. In the 2010s, New England Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski, a player whose personality and physical presence were anything but subtle, took that original concept and injected it with his own brand of overwhelming, almost cartoonish force. The Gronk spike was a modern, violent reinterpretation of the classic, a weekly demonstration of his physical dominance. After a touchdown, Gronkowski wouldn't just spike the ball. He would attempt to drive it through the center of the earth. He would raise the football high above his head with two hands and slam it into the turf with the maximum possible force, using every ounce of his 6'6", 265-pound frame. The result was a football often careening dozens of feet into the air, a physical manifestation of his exuberant, larger-than-life personality. The force of his spikes became legendary. On one famous occasion, during a game against the Houston Texans, his spike left a visible, permanent dent on the artificial turf of NRG Stadium. The Gronk spike was more than just a celebration. It was his brand. It was a pure, unadulterated expression of athletic power that paid homage to the original celebration while amplifying it to a level of intensity that only Gronkowski could achieve. The discount double check. While Rob Gronkowski's celebration was an exercise in brute force, his contemporary and occasional rival, Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, introduced a celebration that was all about cool confidence and eventually unprecedented corporate synergy. After a big touchdown pass or a crucial first down, Rodgers would calmly look towards his sideline or teammates and perform a subtle but distinct motion. He would pretend to put on a heavyweight championship wrestling belt around his waist. The gesture was a quiet but unmistakable statement of his status as one of the league's elite, a champion in his own right. This relatively low-key celebration was then launched into a new stratosphere of cultural relevance by a massive and wildly successful national advertising campaign for State Farm Insurance. The commercials, which became ubiquitous, built their entire premise around Rodgers and his on-field gesture, rebranding it as the discount double check. It became one of the first and most successful examples of a player's signature celebration having a direct and lucrative corporate tie-in. The celebration became synonymous with Rodgers' MVP-level play in Green Bay and demonstrated a new, powerful pathway for athletes to monetize their on-field charisma, blurring the lines between personal brand and corporate marketing. The dab. In 2015, Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton delivered one of the most statistically dominant and individually spectacular MVP seasons in recent NFL history. His on-field performance was a weekly highlight reel, and his celebratory dance became a global cultural phenomenon. After scoring, Newton would perform the dab, a simple but stylish dance move where he would drop his head into the crook of his bent arm while extending the other arm outward. The gesture, which had its origins in the Atlanta hip-hop scene, was launched into the global mainstream by Newton's massive platform. The dab became inescapable. It was performed by kids on playgrounds, by celebrities on red carpets, and even by politicians on the campaign trail. It was the definitive viral dance of its time. However, its constant presence on the football field sparked a fierce national debate. Many fans and media members embraced it as a harmless and joyful expression of a young superstar's personality. Others, however, criticized it as arrogant, unsportsmanlike, and taunting, writing letters to the editor and calling into talk shows to complain about his lack of humility. Cam Newton's dab thus became a cultural flashpoint, a simple move that represented a much larger generational conversation about sportsmanship, on-field decorum, and how an MVP quarterback should be allowed to behave.
Zeke's kettle hop. Every so often, a celebration transcends the game and creates a moment of pure, unexpected joy that even the league office can't penalize. That moment occurred on a Sunday night in December 2016. Dallas Cowboys rookie phenom running back Ezekiel Elliott scored a short touchdown, and, fueled by spontaneous energy, he continued running through the back of the end zone. He spotted the giant oversized red kettle belonging to the Salvation Army, a staple of Cowboys' holiday season games, and without a moment's hesitation, he leapt directly into it, briefly disappearing inside the massive bucket before being helped out by a teammate. The celebration was hilarious, creative, and completely unplanned. Given the league's strict rules against using any props for a celebration, everyone, including the TV announcers, fully expected Elliott to receive a hefty fine. However, what happened next was remarkable. The NFL, in a rare display of public relations savvy, chose not to fine him. The act of jumping into the kettle brought an unprecedented amount of national attention to the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign. In the 24 hours following the kettle hop, the charity reported a massive surge in online donations, totaling millions of dollars. Zeke's kettle hop became a celebrated and rare example of a player's spontaneous joy resulting in an enormous positive windfall for a charitable cause.
The new fun. After years of public criticism and being saddled with the No Fun League moniker, the NFL finally decided to listen to its players and fans. In a major philosophical shift in 2017, the league announced a significant relaxation of its notoriously strict celebration rules. The changes were a direct acknowledgement that fans enjoy creative and entertaining displays of emotions, and that the league's previous attempts to suppress player personality had gone too far. The new guidelines finally allowed for the return of choreographed group celebrations, the very thing that had been banned back in 1984 because of the Fun Bunch. The impact of this rule change was immediate and joyous, ushering in a new golden age of creativity in the end zone. Teams began to meticulously plan and rehearse elaborate group celebrations. The Philadelphia Eagles famously performed a home run celebration, where a player would mine hitting a baseball and then round the bases formed by his teammates. In another memorable example, the Minnesota Vikings receiving corps sat down in the end zone to play a full-fledged game of Duck, Duck, Goose. The Kansas City Chiefs performed a potato sack race. These moments brought a new level of levity, fun, and personality back to the game, washing away years of the No Fun League reputation and setting the stage for the next great viral dance.
The Griddy. The modern era of NFL celebrations and indeed global sports culture is defined by a single viral dance that has dominated the 2020s, the Griddy. A dance characterized by its signature heel-tapping shuffle and the motion of forming goggles over the eyes, was brought to the NFL by former LSU teammates and close friends, wide receivers Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. What started as a viral trend in college football, created by a friend of theirs, was immediately transported to the professional stage when they were drafted. Jefferson, in particular, made it his signature move after every touchdown for the Minnesota Vikings. The Griddy's popularity exploded in a way few celebrations ever have. It became the go-to celebration for an entire generation of NFL players, a common language of success across all 32 teams. But its influence stretched far beyond football. It was quickly integrated into massively popular video games like Fortnite and FIFA, exposing it to hundreds of millions of gamers worldwide. Star athletes in the NBA, Major League Baseball, and European soccer leagues began performing the Griddy after their own big plays. It achieved a level of peak cultural saturation, becoming a true global phenomenon. The Griddy stands as the definitive celebration of the league's current generation, a testament to the power of a single, catchy dance to transcend its sport and become an indelible part of popular culture. Conclusion and legacy. The history of the NFL celebration is a perfect microcosm of the league's own 7-decade evolution, a vibrant story that tracks the league's journey from a gritty, stoic sport to a global entertainment juggernaut. It began with the big bang of self-expression, Homer Jones's simple, violent spike, an act of raw punctuation and an era of quiet professionalism. From that single seed grew a complex family tree of creativity, from the performance art of Billy White Shoes Johnson to the team-based joy of the Fun Bunch. It's a complex, often contradictory story, filled with moments of rebellion and pure joy. A story that perfectly captures the soul of the game we're here to explore. Throughout this entire journey, a central conflict has remained constant: the perpetual tug-of-war between authentic player expression and the league's desire for corporate control and stoic uniformity. This tension gave birth to the no-fun league era, a decades-long period where fines and penalties attempted to legislate personality out of the game. Understanding this constant battle between the players' personalities and the official rulebook is key to understanding the modern NFL, and it is the very type of history we aim to explain. The eventual relaxation of these rules was a hard-won victory for individuality, proving that the game's emotional side could not be indefinitely suppressed. Ultimately, these iconic celebrations are far more than just dances or taunts. They are cultural artifacts, each one a time capsule of its era. They are how players in a helmeted sport communicate their personality and forge powerful connections with fans. They are the stories that define the league's culture. Explaining these moments, from the sideline rules to the cultural impact, is the core mission of USA Football Explained. And as the league continues to evolve, the end zone will undoubtedly remain the most vibrant stage for the next chapter of iconic history we'll be here to break down.
If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.